Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the VFG podcast. Today we are back with Jonathan and CEO of Sky Stadium, Shane Harmon. Welcome to the show, everyone.
Thanks for having me back, Blake.
So, Shane, if you don't mind, we will start with this. We received a question from one of our members about their experience at the stadium, and they had a question regarding parking. So, do you mind if we throw that in there?
Sure.
So the question was, on the average match day, you have a parking of $35 to $40, somewhere within that region. And on a particular day where you get punters the opportunity to leave their car there for the day, you charge 12 to 15, he told me via private message. So he wanted to know why it need to know too. It is increased or inflated so much higher when it comes to match days. Is that a result of the security firm that you use with the whatever the
Blake, that's just simply supply and demand. Obviously, with commuter parking during the week, there's actually no events taking place at the stadium, and with events taking place at the stadium, obviously there's significantly higher demand for the car park, and for most events, that car park actually sells out. And that car park price hasn't really changed much since the stadium opened 20 years ago. We do encourage carpooling and people traveling together. And if you have a car full of people, that works out, at a pretty good rate. But for most events at the stadium, most people either walk, cycle, or take public transport. I think only, we did some surveys previously that only around 28 to 30% of people actually drive to events at the stadium. But for most events, that car park is sold out.
Do you want to add anything, Jonathan?
I was just going to say, I'm not from Wellington, but the times that we have come to the stadium, it's been through public transport, and being able to get off right there at the train station and walk right into the stadium and straight back out again makes for such a good user experience.
Yeah, we're very fortunate. We're very fortunate to be based where we are, in that, for big events, people can go into town, have a bite to eat, go to the pub, have a beer, and then walk up to the stadium and be well served with public transport afterwards. So I think it's important for these big venues to be well served by public transport, and it's only going to increase. I'm reading today in the papers, the possibility of congestion charges being introduced in Wellington and Auckland in the coming years, and with the Let's Get Wellington Moving project kicking off, there's going to be an increasing focus on public transport, and we're big supporters of it here at the stadium.
Just before we get on to the Phoenix stuff, because if you don't mind, I would like to share my experience too, because you know that I come with my dad a lot, and is it something you're willing to look at again? Because from my experience as well, and like last week, for example, I came in for the Hurricanes game, and we had to park away from the stadium, out by the back of the train station, because my dad and I used to be able to afford park, but it seemed to have gone up.
Yeah, the pricing hasn't gone up, Blake, and there is a slightly higher charge for buying on the day, but you can save money by booking in advance, and that booking in advance payment is the same as it's been for the last 20 years. So there's been no increase in that price. I understand that there are probably cheaper options around town, but again, that car park does sell out for every major event, including Hurricanes, and it was full again at the weekend.
Okay.
What level of capacity do you have in the car park?
It's depending on what requirements we have from the teams or the hires. It's between 700 and 800 cars, so it's quite a big car park.
Cool.
Yeah, and it's also an important revenue stream for the stadium too, because that commuter car park during the week, event parking at the weekend is a significant chunk of earnings for us to be able to keep this place running.
Yeah.
We don't get any council or government support towards the operational running of the stadium on the day-to-day basis. So, we have to raise revenue from all kinds of sources, and car parking is an important one for us.
Okay, thanks for your answer. I just thought I would bring that up while we were here.
No problem, Blake.
People were asking. So usually when it comes to Phoenix previews, we would have David Dome on this show, but unfortunately he wasn't available today. So at the time of this recording, so I thought the next thing was to see if you could come on and talk about the stadium as we have been, and maybe try your hand at a preview yourself.
My knowledge of the Phoenix, I could probably put on a postage stamp compared to David, but I will certainly give it a go.
So this Saturday, and the next bit help because you're the person at the stadium, so that's okay. So this Saturday we have Western United versus Wellington Phoenix, and if they win that game from Melbourne, 9:45 kickoff New Zealand time, so a late one for some of you. So if they win that game, they get a chance to potentially return home to Sky Stadium. So how much in economy and impact do you believe it will bring to the stadium, Shane, after not having so many big occasions for so long, with the impacts of the old red system and COVID?
Yeah, look, I mean,
you be to have a big occasion like that back at the stadium?
Yeah, look, any events are important for us after the 2 years we've had. I suppose the challenge with this event is we're only going to have a couple of days' notice. So, normally for a big event like a test match, for an All Blacks match, you're on sale for months beforehand. People are booking their travel and booking hotels and accommodation and restaurants months in advance. If the Phoenix win on Saturday, tickets will go on sale on Monday, 2 days prior to the game. And, given it's midweek, given it's short notice, we're not going to have a huge amount of people, I would say, traveling from outside the region. You might get a few hundred of diehards. The main thing for us is just the prestige of hosting an A-League semi-final and the chance for the Phoenix to be in a game where they're essentially one series of matches away from their first ever grand final. And I still expect that we'll see a big crowd. It's very hard to estimate what the crowd is going to be with such short notice, but 10, 12, 15,000 perhaps. It's where I'm only hazarding a guess there. And that creates a lot of challenges because we have to try and plan for that game without having any idea of how many are going to turn up. So for a Hurricanes game, like, they're on sale for weeks and months beforehand. We're watching ticket sales and we're comparing them to other games, and we can always get a pretty good handle within 1,000 people of how many we expect to come. This one, I have no idea whether we're getting 5,000 or 20,000. So we're already planning for that game. So it's a really unusual one. We have to have all of our staff lined up. So we're catering, security team, rostering all those staff, not knowing whether the game's actually going to take place. And we're not going to know till about midnight here on Saturday night. So it'll be chaos for a few days, but it'll be good chaos, and it's a very nice problem to have for us. And yeah, we're all cheering the Phoenix on, and be fantastic for them to be back here on Wednesday evening playing Melbourne City in the first leg of a semi-final.
So you just gave it away, really. So therefore, you can exclusively reveal on the show that the first leg will be in Wellington next winter.
Well, I think it's actually already been announced. The A-League have put that out. So
they haven't seen what teams or leagues it was.
Yeah, but it's because the Phoenix finished sixth. If they win, they will be the lowest ranked winner. And the lowest ranked winner, the draw, will play the highest ranked winner in the semi-finals. So that's already kind of set in stone that it would be Melbourne City in a two-legged semi-final here in Wellington on Wednesday, and then following weekend in Melbourne. So fingers crossed. It'd be awesome to have the Phoenix back, and I think they're quietly confident and happy that they've drawn Western United. They've played them 3 times this season and won all 3. And in fact, I think the only game that Western United have ever beaten Wellington was the first game they played them here in Wellington. It was you might remember Mark Rudan's first game back, and he got a good welcome from the Yellow Fever.
He got a good reception in Ireland too.
He did, but that was good theatre, wasn't it? When he got the red card, he did a bow to the fans. So it was good fun. It was good fun. And yeah, he added to the occasion, so good on him.
Have you watched much of Western United season, Shane?
Not a lot. Mainly the games that they've played the Phoenix. So I watch most of the Phoenix games that aren't here at the stadium. So they've had an unusual season as well. You know, they've been up and down a little bit like the Phoenix, and I think these two teams match up well, and I think it'll be probably one goal either way that decides it. Hopefully the way of the Phoenix.
Because I said to you, Jonathan, privately, and we can reiterate it here. Do you still believe that if Western didn't have the advantage of all the other teams getting COVID early on, that they would have, because of their form being so poor as of late, that they would have struggled to make it to the top 6 if it was a regular season? Jonathan?
Yeah, I think so. I think it has been a very stop-start season, and United haven't played well in the second half of the season, which is kind of interesting because a lot of the other teams had a lot of games jammed in very short turnaround times. The Victory and Melbourne City and so on. So, but they've all risen to the challenge, whereas Western United seems to have fallen away. They haven't been able to maintain that momentum that they had early on. So I'm pretty excited. I think we could, potentially Wednesday night, we could be at home in our own stadium, which would be fantastic.
It was almost like they were able to get so far in the head in the season because they didn't have so many cases. And maybe both of you have an opinion here, but like they weren't able to, they were able to capitalize because they didn't have so many cases. And then when everyone recovered from COVID and they were so far ahead, it was like, it seemed to me that they were like, oh, let's play easy. We've got a whole lot of points ahead now. And then they got a bit cocky and then it all sort of fell apart for them.
Yeah, I think it's been such an unusual season for all clubs, and it's very hard for teams to have kind of long runs of consistent form. And we've seen that with the Phoenix at the back end of the season as well. Some, very, very heavy defeats and narrow victories. But still, I think given what the Phoenix have had to endure for the last couple of years, It's impressive that they've made the final. There was somebody joked that they were the only team from Sydney to make the finals this year.
Good old defeated admin.
Yeah.
That was defeated admin on Facebook or Twitter.
Yeah, Phoenix admin, I think it was. Yeah. But look, Sydney FC didn't make the finals. Western Sydney Wanderers didn't make the finals, and they're two of the traditional big clubs, and so it's a great achievement.
And looking forward. Well, we've got you here. Looking forward to next season, and the likelihood of being back to a regular schedule for the Phoenix, and maybe even for the women the competition, with them just announcing that they'll be adding Western United overnight as we're recording this. How important is that going to be to have the Phoenix and the Fever and David and all of that regular routine back in schedule after basically 2 to 3 seasons without any regularity?
Yeah, I don't care too much for David actually, but the Phoenix, the Phoenix and the Yellow Fever, having them back would be amazing, because it's one of the points of difference here in Wellington and our stadium, in that we always have a full summer of content and sport. The Phoenix are part of that tapestry. I still think, in Wellington, we're privileged to have a professional football team. And Blake, as you quite rightly said, we're about to welcome a new home team in the Wellington Phoenix women as well. And, the Phoenix are the only professional football team in all of Oceania, men and now women. And we have the world game here in our city. And we just need a few more people appreciating that and getting bigger crowds. And I'm confident that come October, I think, when the season will start, and I don't know what the schedule yet is, but wouldn't it be amazing if we could start with a double header with the men and the women? And I'd love to see the women's team get a huge crowd here for their first game. With the World Cup, the Women's World Cup in Australia and New Zealand next year, it's a huge opportunity for the women's game, and I think we'll have a huge crowd in Wellington for their first home game.
Following on from that, if they were to come to a point where, heaven forbid, they improve quite a lot and make a final in the next couple of seasons or next season or whenever that may be, the Phoenix girls will make the final series of their competition. How confident are you that there's enough buzz around the women's game that you'll be able to sell enough tickets for maybe even a standalone game if it has to come to that point?
Yeah, look, I'm confident. You see the trajectory that women's football is on around the world at the moment, and you might have seen some of the images from Barcelona, for example, and the full new camp for a recent game there. Lots of examples around the world. Angel City FC in LA, and the terrific job that their owners are doing in growing the game, the Premier League in the UK, and the opportunity that we have here is leading into the Women's World Cup in 2023 in July and August next year. And we were honoured to have the FIFA Secretary General Fatma Samora visit the venues this week, and I had the honour of hosting her here in Wellington on Monday and going through preparations for that event. And it's going to be the biggest event, in my view, that New Zealand's ever held. The standards are enormous. We're already really busy working on that event, and I think there's a lot of Kiwis don't realise yet how big this event is going to be.
Because it's been, and this is a bit off topic, but it's been such a big year it's going to be such a big, by the time it's finished, 24 months for women's sport in New Zealand in general, because earlier this year we had the Cricket World Cup, we've got the Rugby Women's World Cup fast approaching, and as you say, the Football World Cup.
Yeah.
So, just going a bit off topic here, do you see the same trajectory for the super franchises, the Super Rugby Aupiki and the Hurricane having their team back at the stadium as well?
I believe so. Obviously that had a difficult birth this year with COVID and the competition being truncated and played out of one venue. But it was important, I think, symbolically to get that off the ground, and hopefully that goes to bigger and better things next year. And that we will also, I mean, it's fantastic because we have the opportunity next season in both football and rugby that we're essentially welcoming two new home teams in Wellington, and both women's teams. And one of the legacies in the FIFA World Cup is that we're going to be embarking on we're going to be upgrading all of our change rooms, because let's face it, when these stadiums are all built, they were largely built for men's sport, and those change rooms were built for men. And we're upgrading all of those change rooms to be gender neutral. And that'll be a great legacy from hosting the FIFA World Cup, that our facilities are going to be much more suitable for people of all genders. So it's an exciting opportunity.
And the process for those renovations are going well?
Yeah, we're just starting that process at the moment, so that'll happen towards the end of this year.
And will there be any disruption to normal stadium?
No, not really. We've actually got 5 change rooms here, so we're able to kind of mix and match and move teams around depending on what's happening. So it's not, they're not going to be wholesale changes, like it's not going to be structural, but it's it's just making them more suitable for women as they are for men, basically. So yeah.
Finally, before we go, a bit of fun one to close for you. You've got your home team of Ireland coming in a few weeks. So what's that going to be like for you?
Look, it's
All that fan or Irish fan?
Yeah. Look, I mean, I'm originally from Ireland, so while I support the All Blacks in all my time here, when Ireland come, I will be supporting Ireland. But when the game comes here, I'm very much in work mode, so I'm not sitting down in a seat watching most of the game. Hopefully, if it goes well operationally, I can maybe relax and watch a bit of the second half. But it's going to be a great tour, and I think Ireland had a good Six Nations. It's 1 year out from the Rugby World Cup in France next year. They're going to be bringing a big squad, and it's going to be fascinating to see where both teams are. We obviously haven't seen the All Blacks for a while, so after Super Rugby, it's going to be interesting to see where they are.
Yeah, sorry. Finish up.
Yeah, and we've got the 3rd test in Wellington, so wouldn't it be awesome if it was finally poised at 1 test each heading to Wellington and a decider here in Wellington? But it's selling really well. I think when Super Rugby, when we got back to having crowds again, like the crowds have not got back to where they have been in recent years, and I think with COVID there's been some reticence in terms of getting back out there in large numbers, and I think we're seeing that in a lot of events at the moment, and that maybe New Zealand is kind of 3 to 4 months behind, say, Australia in terms of getting back to normal. But these test matches couldn't come at a better time, because all 3 are going to sell out, and it'll just give confidence to the overall events industry that we're back, and this will be a great tour. I expect there'll be a lot of Irish will come for this tour, and particularly a lot of Irish will travel over from Australia. I've got a lot of friends in Australia, and they're coming over for the 2nd and 3rd test. And I'm biased, but the Irish supporters are brilliant. They're colourful, they sing, and they'll add a lot of atmosphere to those games.
Yep.
Just to find a follow up, with the border now being all but open, apart from a few final touches at the end of July, how helpful is that to the stadium to have the option to offer the international fans the chance to come back in?
Yeah,
you just touched on.
Yeah, so it's not. It's probably not so much the international fans, because regardless of the event here, unless it's like a big event like a Rugby World Cup or a FIFA World Cup, like you're not bringing thousands and thousands of international fans in for events. The more important thing is actually getting those acts and teams into New Zealand, because if you look at our business, like the A-League, the NRL, Super Rugby, international cricket, concerts, they all require open borders to get those artists and teams into the country. So while COVID has been challenging in that we haven't been able to have crowds is only one part of it. Even with crowds, our business is still a shadow of its former self if borders are not open. So the critically important thing for us is that we can now plan with certainty for bringing these events into Wellington and into New Zealand. We've got 3 concerts, although 660 is obviously a local act, but with Guns N' Roses and Ed Sheeran, and we're still working on other stuff for next summer and the following summer as well. But we can now plan with certainty, because what's happened in the last couple of years is that these shows have gone on sale, and the population thinking, well, am I buying a ticket for an event that might not actually happen, or that might be postponed again? And the money's been sitting there for 2 years while we're waiting for this act to come. So I think now we can plan with a lot more certainty, and I think these test matches in July are just going to give us more confidence to crowds to come back and actually enjoy these events.
And what's it like? I just had a thought. What's it like meeting all those international celebrities like Guns N' Roses and Ed, and working with their talent agents and stuff like that?
Yeah, look, it's nowhere near as glamorous what people think it is. I generally don't meet these people. I'm working directly with the local promoters who work with the agents in the US, who the agents work with the management, who works with the artists. So there are several steps between me and the artist, unfortunately. And yeah, I'm unfortunately not backstage having beers with Axl Rose. I'm normally in a working capacity and just dealing with the local promoters, be that Frontier Touring, TEG Dainty, Live Nation, or Eccles Entertainment here in New Zealand. And yeah, our contacts are local. They're in Australia and New Zealand, and that's who we normally work with in terms of bringing these acts in.
And I'm sure you'll be sitting on the edge of your seat this Saturday for the Phoenix game.
Yeah, absolutely. Despite the challenges of hosting a game with 3 days' notice, we're absolutely cheering them on. And it's a pity it's not a bit earlier. We're all staying up till midnight to watch this game, and it could go to extra time.
Oh, the life of journalism!
It could go to extra time.
So yeah, thanks for coming on, Shane, and having a bit of fun with us this morning.
Thanks, Blake, and nice to meet you, Jonathan.
The right foot.
Thank you.